Today we're going to look at drawing our nightstand with SketchUp and then eventually transferring to Vcarve Pro. This will be a series of 4 or 5 videos. Feel free to stop, pause. Don't try to do too many steps at once. That's usually when students get frustrated and want to give up on this. I am going to look on my Canvas page, and Canvas might change a little bit when you have this class, but first thing I want to do is look at the plans. I want to find the plans that we're going to draw because we're going to constantly be referencing back and forth. So I'm going to start here with my nightstand packet link and just a quick overview of what we are going to be drawing. If I go all the way up to the top, we have this first thing called the face frame. The face frame is just this. This is solid wood. It's not getting cut out on the CNC router. But behind the face frame is the case parts, the left, the right side, and there's a bottom shelf, and these things called stringers at the very top that we will want to get drawn to be able to cut out on the CNC router. So we're going to scroll down on the plans a little bit until we can get to this case cut list. This lists all the parts, our sides, our bottom shelves, and our stringers. This will be helpful as we are drawing. This side layout is probably going to be the most helpful part, and I'll move my face here so you can see there's quite a few measurements on here that we're going to be clicking back and forth to. So just be ready for that. Where I want to go to log into SketchUp is this right here. Click here to log into SketchUp. If you go to the SketchUp nightstand page, there's also going to be a link here that says log into SketchUp link by clicking here. You can see there's going to be about 4 videos that 3 of them have to do with SketchUp and 1 of them has to do with Vcarve. And this is what my goal is for you to be able to do by the end of our probably 2 class periods in working through this. So I'm going to log into the SketchUp app by clicking here. If you've had Mr. Zachman's class before, you know that there is a desktop version and there is a login version, and I'm going to go a different route to this because that looks like it's being goofy. I'll make sure I update that before I publish this video. I can also click here to log into app. This is interesting. This is a district issue. Hopefully this doesn't take very long. So I've gone ahead and updated that link. It was going to an old style of SketchUp. Now SketchUp is actually an app, and that was going to a different login page. So when we get here, you're likely to see something different than I am. And we're hopefully going to have time to go through this in class before you do this on your own. But because I've used SketchUp several times, this is going to just log me right in. And that's why it's important that you continue to go back to the same computer because it's going to remember you over and over. And now this happened to log in to my company's Facebook page. So I'm going to sign out of this. And I am going to log into my school Facebook page or my school SketchUp page. And you can see as it's kind of going through this, this is the page that you're likely going to come to first. And the best thing that you can do is hit Start Modeling, and it's going to ask you for some login information. This is great because it doesn't always happen like this for me. I'm going to say sign in with Google, and then you're going to want to use your school email account for this. So I'll use kyle.swenson@Wayzata Schools. I know your email's different than mine, but it will likely have you go through that authentication process to log into something that you do on Wayzata Public Schools. And you can see here's a recent, this is a kitchen that we built with Woods 2. You won't have anything here because you haven't done anything with SketchUp yet, which is great. So under the Create New, I'm going to hit the drop-down menu, and I'm going to say architectural feet and inches. Architectural or fractional inches. If we do this architectural feet and inches, that's great if you're drawing a house because it will, if you're drawing a home that's 50 foot 6 inches wide, it will label it 50 feet 6 inches. But for us, we're drawing smaller things, and we want it all to be labeled inches. For example, our nightstand is 28 inches tall. I'd rather read 28 inches instead of 2 foot 4 inches. So we're going to do fractional inches. Hopefully that loads up here. And we're going to get to here. Now there's almost always a person in SketchUp, and leave that person there because it gives us an idea of scale. I've had students draw cabinets that look proportional, but they're 3,000 feet high, and so we go bring them to the CNC router. We get all kinds of error messages. So leave the person here until the very end. So we're going to start out by drawing our side, and we're going to actually draw from the bottom up. So the easiest way to do this, I can see that if I move me again, my side is 11 3/4 of an inch deep. So track with me here. I'm going to come over here and grab this rectangle tool. If you've not used the app version of SketchUp before, That's okay. You'll probably notice that it looks just a hair different than the downloaded or desktop version, but that's okay. If you need to find more buttons that you can't find, you click here and you get to more buttons. This just loads up the common buttons and the most recently used ones. But I'm going to do a rectangle. Now, drawing a rectangle in SketchUp is probably the thing that or messes students up maybe the most. You can't change the size of a rectangle if you click too many times. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to pull out this rectangle, and it doesn't matter the size. You can see in the bottom right corner of the screen, it tells me the dimension of this rectangle. If you want to try to guess the size, that's great, but it really doesn't matter what is in there. So I'm going to click again to place it. Now notice, I haven't moved my mouse. I'm going right to my keyboard, and I'm going to punch in the dimension that I want. I want this to be 0.75 inches wide. We're using 3/4 inch material, comma, 11 3/4 deep. Okay, now that looks really small. Please use a mouse for this. If you use a mouse, you can just use the scroll wheel to zoom in on it. Now it doesn't look quite so small because it's there for us. Now what we're going to do is pull this up, or if you've used a lot of Inventor before, extrude is the process that we're going to do. And I'm going to look and see how tall this is. It's 28 inches tall. So now I'm going to hover over this until it highlights blue, and sometimes that's hard to see, but there's little dots inside of it when it's highlighted. I'm going to pull it up to any height that I want, and the next thing I do, notice I'm not moving my mouse, I'm not clicking a box, I just let go of the mouse, and now I'm going to type 28 and then hit enter. And you can see in the bottom right corner that went to 28 inches. So if you want to double check this, you can get the dimension tool, and if you can't find the dimension tool, maybe it's hidden. And I'll go here to here. I see that I'm 11 3/4. Here to here, I'm 28 inches tall. Now I got to do some things to the side of our project. The side is by far the most complicated part of our project, and so I need to draw some dados and rabbits in here. And a rabbit, you may not understand, but just follow along with me. Hopefully it will make sense. A rabbit is something that we cut into the side of our project so the back can be recessed in. I want to find this tape measure tool, and the tape measure tool for me is right here. When I find that tape measure tool, I can orbit or pan around my drawing. Keep in mind the tape measure tool might be behind these three dots, but I'm going to click the center button, the scroll wheel on my mouse, and that usually lets me orbit around. Now that's not letting me orbit around right now, so I'm going to use this tool, click and place, and that'll allow me to orbit and see my side. Now I'm going to go back to that tape measure tool. I'm going to click on the edge, and I'm just going to arbitrarily place it about in the middle of my board. Now instead of pushing any buttons, going to any box, all I'm going to do is click on the keyboard 0.375, because that rabbit is going to be 3/8 of an inch deep. That's this part right here, this rabbit on the very top. You can see that measurement is 3/8 of an inch. Now I come back to SketchUp, and now I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I may have to zoom in to make sure it snaps to the corner, zoom out, and then I'll zoom back into the bottom here, click and place it. Now that has been placed. If I want to get rid of this guideline, I can. Sometimes those guidelines drive me crazy. And I'm going to come back here, grab my push-pull tool, and I'm going to push that rabbit in 3/8 of an inch, 0.375. Same process. I push in to some arbitrary size, and then I type on the keyboard. So this should be in 3/8 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch. Okay. Now if you get stuck on that, or let's say you did something wrong, you can hit Control Z, and that will undo whatever your last step was. So maybe I pushed it in too far, typed in the wrong thing. Control Z, whoops, a daisy, I hit a button I wasn't expecting to hit. Control Z undoes, Control Y redoes. So now I've got that rabbit in there. The last thing I want to do on my side is I want to put in my dado from the bottom. So if I go back to my plans, sorry, my face keeps getting in the way. This dado right here is where my bottom shelf is going to slide into. And we can see that it's 2 1/4 inch from the bottom, and it's 3/4 of an inch wide. So I go up 2/4 or 2 1/4 and then up 3 inches. So I'll come back here. Make sure that's on the front. Sometimes I like to drag it along the edge. 2.25. So again, I place it arbitrarily, type in 2.25. Same thing, click on the bottom, slide up my side, 3 inches. And now I have a 3/4 of an inch wide dado, or wide guidelines. Then I come up to the rectangle tool, and I draw the rectangle. And I can notice on the bottom there, the dimensions say that it's 3/4 of an inch wide and 11 1/4 long. If you want to get rid of these, you can get rid of these guidelines. And then I need to push my dado in 1/4 of an inch. If it comes out this way, that's a problem. I want it to go there. And look, I definitely went too deep with that. That's okay. All dados are 0.25 inches deep. So again, I push it in arbitrarily. It can go anywhere it wants to. And then as soon as I let go of the mouse, I punch in the 0.25. So this is my side. It's all done. I want to lock this in so that it doesn't ever get changed. Because in SketchUp, if we add on to something, if I would draw another rectangle, it's going to fuse with this, and I don't want to do that. I want this to be a standalone part. So I'm going to click the selector tool. Excuse me. Click the selector tool. Triple click on this till it all turns blue. Then I'm going to right click and say make a component, and I got to give it a name. We're going to call this cabinet side. Okay. Now this thing, if I click on it once now, the whole thing is selected. I can move it around, but I can't modify it without telling the SketchUp that I want to modify the component. So you now have your side done. Congratulations. You're probably almost halfway done with this project.